right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining from the April 9th, 2024 regular scheduled village board meeting. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Water roll call.
Mayor Cole.
Here.
Trustees Amos.
Here.
Brockman.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Luciano.
Here.
And Selfridge.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum for this evening. We will move into our citizen segment. Are there any citizens wishing to address the village board? Seeing none at this time, we will move into this evening's consent agenda. Item number 1 will be approval of the regular meeting minutes of March 26, 2024. Approval of the bills list in the amount of $548,010.13. And item number 3 would be approval of a payment in the amount of $23,654.72 to Arbortech for tree pruning services. Are there any items that a trustee has a question or needs any additional information?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion Luciano, second Selfridge, roll call.
Brockman.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
And Amos.
Yes.
All right, consent agenda has been approved. Moving into our reports of communications. We will have one proclamation. Before that, though, Lana, did you receive any communications prior to this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you. We do have a proclamation for this evening. It will be an Arbor Day proclamation. This is one we get to do every year. With that, we're going to read the Arbor Day proclamation for Arbor Day, April 26, 2024. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by cleaning and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our village increase the property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Clarence C. DeVault, Mayor of the Village of Shorewood, do hereby proclaim that Friday, April 26, 2024, is Arbor Day in the Village of Shorewood. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woods. And I further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this future generation. Dated on this 9th day of April, 2024. Thank you, everybody. We're back into this. That'll conclude our reports of communication segment, and that will move into this evening's order of business. Item number 1 will be a consideration for approval of a resolution adopting a site plan for a parking lot expansion to Shorewood Troy Library. This item is for Mr. Brockman and Ms. King.
Thank you, Mayor. I kicked this off, and Shorewood Troy Library came before us at our last meeting, looking to expand their parking lot. And as I told Jenny when I came here that night, I went by the place and there was 1 parking spot available. So I guess they do need them pretty bad over there. So I want to add 18 additional spaces just to the south of their building, and could go to 44 eventually. So we had a discussion at planning and zoning, a short discussion. It comes here with a 7-0 vote for approval. And Natalie, you want to fill in the blanks, please?
Sure.
So, very soon there will be a image popping on the screen that shows you basically the location. Up in orange at the top, you see the library and the existing lot to the west of it. The library district is proposing to build a new parking lot, across the street, so across Deerwood and right next to the, daycare center. This is basically the same thing, but just zoomed in the site plan view with the darker area being the first phase of the parking lot. The area you see in green is what they would build first. It's an 18-stall parking lot with one ADA space. And they proposed an expansion area which could ultimately bring it up to 44 parking spaces in the future, should they need it. Their arrow is pointing to the ADA space, and there's also ADA spaces across the street. When the initial phase of the parking lot is built, there will be one access point from Deerwood Drive, shown with the orange circle. And if it's expanded in the future, then there will also be an access point onto the internal drive at Shorewood Plaza, which we'll discuss next as well. They're going to be doing some improvements. Basically, they'll be adding crosswalks to get to the existing library, and they'll be doing some sidewalk work as well, and then also the signage that goes along with it. This is the area that will be improved, shown in blue. So ultimately, the darker areas will be done first, and then the lighter area is the future expansion area. It would all be paved and curved and guttered as it is built out, and then they'll also be adding a curve along the internal drive for the Shorewood Plaza along their property, the property they're looking at. This is the landscape plan. As you can see, there's a couple things to point out. They're going to be adding a blue light box for safety at the corner that's circled in blue. They'll be adding parking lot lines that are standard in the parking lot circled in green, and then they'll be updating a couple of the existing lights to modernize them, make sure they work a little bit better in orange. They will also be, they've identified future spaces so they could be charging in the future. So there's one space right near the existing library shown by the star, and then one in the new parking space as well. And then landscaping, there's a variety of different types of landscaping. They have parking lot island landscaping with the tree and some shrubbery. There's landscaping along the Deerwood. There's landscaping along the west side where the property abuts to houses. They'll also be going through if there are areas of that fence that need to be replaced, they'll be replacing them. And then along the south end of the site, they've also got some landscaping other than where the existing dumpster enclosure is for the medical buildings to the south. Right now what they're showing is all the landscaping that will be done in phase 2 because they are proposing a potential parking lot expansion. If they were to do that, they would have to come in and get a building permit and show us how they were going to be, landscaping a couple of odd landscape items. The next item on the agenda, I'm not sure if you want me to cover it, it's related, but
Yeah, that's fine.
as part of this deal, they would need access to the Shorewood Plaza access drive. So the Micah's family asked that the village take that portion of the drive as right of way, in which case we'd be responsible for maintenance and any future rebuilding and whatnot. And we're bringing this forward to you because it's, although we typically wouldn't take a private drive, in this case it serves a public purpose because it'll ultimately be able to provide access to the parking lot if it's expanded, which serves our residents. So we're bringing that forward in a separate resolution for you as well.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Yeah.
Will they be doing any type of lighting in regards to indicating that there's going to be pedestrian crosswalk from their parking lot to the library?
So there was a discussion about it, and the engineers determined that it wasn't indicated to do lighting, so it would just be signage.
Okay. Otherwise, the road markings will be in place, of course.
Yeah.
They're only going to do the first phase in the parking lot, which is no problem. Will the back half of the lot be just still maintained as turf?
It can be maintained as turf until funding or until it indicates that we need it.
Therefore, it can be maintained, not have to worry about erosion issues or any drainage issues. It can be maintained. And then exactly which landscape of this initial phase, what landscaping is going to be done initially? Just the stuff in the front part of the parking lot or anything on that initial homes?
Everything you see now will be done in the first phase.
Okay, I think that helps the homeowners in that regard.
Exactly. you might as well go ahead and plant out the shrubbery next.
One thing, the original plan they submitted didn't have landscape, well, it had some landscape, not all the landscape on the south end, but we thought, since there are residents who aren't used to having cars parked in that area, it would help to buffer it, and they really need a good neighbor for those residents.
And we do understand that there's gonna be additional noise there, so we're happy to do that.
I think that's great that you're recognizing, the neighbors right there, creating a little opportunity for some of that screening to help minimize any impact to them in that capacity. I'm glad to see that they're recognizing the landscaping all the way to the south there to help, again, get that all done right now for us. That one little piece of road it's on the next item, but since we're on it, many of us probably realize in that plaza over there, that's an odd section of road that's been misinterpreted for many years, whether it's ours or private property in there. So I think I'm glad to see that they're willing to dedicate it to us, and we can start looking at how those improvements will occur. So, but in regards to item number one, I'm glad to see that. I think it works. It's done in phases. Trustee Brockman, was there anybody else during your planning and zoning commission, any other comments or anything in regards to this? Anybody else have any
I
questions?
just have one question based on what you asked. You're gonna do partial right now, which means summer landscaping is gonna be left. But when they completed with, asphalt, where is it capable of water running off someplace? Is there gonna be any problem with runoff water?
It will be curbed and guttered for now. So if you look at the, I don't know if you can see my cursor. So right now, what will be built will be a full access road with curb and gutter and asphalt, and then the rest
There you
will be
go.
grassed. And
Trustee
then,
Luciano, let's back up on
Oh,
this
perfect.
for it.
so, in this area here, there will be curb and gutter, and then everything else will be grass. So it'll look like it'll be a full parking lot when it's built, and then if they do expand in the future, then they'll, saw cut it, and they'll rip out that curb, and they'll expand the parking lot properly.
It'll look like a nice completed project for phase one.
So if they never expand it, it's not gonna be incomplete.
It'll look like a parking lot. Intermediate.
Real quick, last one, I apologize. And Natalie, you mentioned lighting, it's nothing egregious, we're not gonna have any concern, right?
No, they're replacing some existing lights because they're older, and then there's, I believe, one light fixture that's going in.
Not a problem.
And their existing parking lot isn't totally compliant because it's older, but they're putting in, the replacements will be compliant.
Okay.
And the new parking lot will be all standards. And the photometric scans.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead, answer.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution approving a site plan for the parking lot expansion at the Shorewood Troy Public Library.
Second.
Motion Brockman, second Chapman. Roll call, please.
Carol.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yeah.
Amos.
Yes.
And Brockman.
Yes.
All right, item number one's been approved. Item number two will be consideration of a resolution accepting a dedication of right-of-way and recommends approval of the same. Also, trustee Brockman and Stengel. Obviously, I think we can pretty much recap this. We just discussed this. Is obviously the small section of road that was that private property that was on that short plaza for many years, but I think a lot of times interpreted that it was ours. So, unless anyone else has any other questions on that.
If not, make a motion to approve a resolution accepting the make a motion to approve a resolution accepting a dedication of right-of-way and recommend approval of the site.
Motion Brockman, second trustee Carroll. Roll call, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yes.
Amos.
Yes.
Brockman.
Yes.
And Carol.
All right, item number two has been approved. Item number three will be consideration for approval of a resolution accepting the public improvements for Shorewood Market Street and releasing the improvement bond. Ms. Ang.
Yeah, when Aldi was built, they had to post a financial security, to the amount of $29,215. All of that work was done. It's all been completed, it's all been inspected, they provided all the as-bills and everything they need to do. They've asked for it to be released. This is an odd one because it came in like a couple of days after everything shut down for COVID, so it came in digitally. Because of that, it wasn't tracked the same way, so we didn't go to maintenance bond, but they've had their existing bond in place well beyond the maintenance period. So we're recommending that you also waive the maintenance requirement.
Any issues from the public works side?
No, we're good.
Good?
Anybody have any questions on releasing the bond? Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution accepting the public improvements for Shorewood Market Street, releasing it.
Motion trustee Amos, seconded by trustee Chap. Roll call, please.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
and Chapman.
Yes.
All right, item number 3 has been approved. Item number 4 will be consideration for approval of an ordinance amending the Village of Shorewood Code of Ordinances with respect to creating a residential rental property registration. This item is up for a first read, more so up here just to get some discussion points out there for us. And Ms. Engel and Mr. Dudash and council will kind of lead the discussion.
Thank you. So after we had the committee of the whole meeting, we started, doing some research and working on a rental registration registry for residences. We provided a draft for you. We don't expect a vote tonight. We thought it would be a good time to, show you what we've been working on, show you our current draft, get some feedback before bringing it forward. Just to kind of give a summary of the ordinance, we have made it so that it is applicable to all residential uses except businesses like hotels, motels, and healthcare facilities, which we already license and register as businesses. Primarily, the ordinance is about collecting information that we can use if we need to contact people with regard to the homes. So it proposes to collect information about the property owner, the property manager, the lessee, the type and location of rental, so is it a single family dwelling, is it an apartment building, an apartment, is it a mobile home, where it's located, obviously, the lease term and the occupancy date. Over the last couple of days, we've had a couple of suggestions. One of which was to add, everybody who's living in there, so we can certainly, if it's your pleasure, adding a requirement to list all adult residents and maybe the number of people, we don't feel that it's appropriate to have them list every child. But we can certainly add that stuff. We've also, required that as part of the form, not necessarily approved as part of the ordinance, because it could be in flux, but that as part of the form, there'll be a list of property standards for the landlord. Mark prepared that, so just speak to those as well.
These are just basic life safety, property maintenance standards, both interior and exterior, that we would require the landlords and owners self-certify, basically, stating that their properties are not necessarily up to the most current codes, but like I said, basic life safety standards.
As we spoke about, we would primarily like this to be an online form. We think it would make it a lot easier to collect the data. In your packet, we've provided sort of the copy of the paper form, because that would be the easier one to provide. So we've provided a copy of paper form, example of what we can send out. We've also sort of mocked up a digital form, which we'd like to send people to, where we could collect the information, would immediately populate a database that staff could have access to. Some of the things that we need to think about are first off, if we do assuming we do a rental registry, what would we like to be the target date to have everybody registered? I think in an ideal world, I would think January 1st would be the best date, because that's when we renew all licenses. And because the couple of months that lead up to January 1st are cold and there's not a lot of new construction starting, so it's a little bit easier to get things done. For the purposes of this ordinance, I assumed that, you may want to do that a little bit more quickly. So when I've just thrown in dummy dates, we've thrown in September 1st dummy date. We'd like to get your input on when you think this should be done. What we're suggesting as staff is that We go out and we do sort of a first phase of notifying people that they need to register their rentals. And we kind of looked at, what is least expensive, and sort of easiest so that we can collect those few that will be easier. So we've suggested going out in e-news, water bills, newsletters, social media, websites, and Channel 6. Isabel already started working on a little bit about, marketing program to get an idea of how we would do this. So what you see on the slide is an example of what it would look like on Channel 6. What you see here on this slide is, what we can put out on something like Facebook or Instagram regularly, where we describe the process. We have a couple of visuals for people to catch their eye. And also, we think e-news. A lot of people sign up for e-news, and that's a good place to put that as well. We think the second phase of notifying people will be more intense, because that's what we're going to have to directly target mail. Mark, I'll let you explain that.
So first phase, obviously, of the digital methods. Second phase would be writing letters and trying to discover all these properties would be very time consuming, but we would we'd have to go through tax records, try to do a lot of comparisons, try to figure out where the rentals are, and then write letters, basically trying to get compliance. And just go from there, really.
So what we kind of thought would be a good idea was to, a month before everything is due, send out something pretty general to everybody we've identified via tax records and utility records. So maybe a postcard or something like that would be fairly quick to do. And then once the deadline's hit, then we send them a notice saying, hey, you were supposed to register. We'd apply a fee like we do for business licenses and send them a letter. A month after that, we start elevating that, maybe a letter certified. 2 months later, then we start with the enforcement process. So, we definitely are welcome. We'd welcome any comments. We just thought it would be good to propose a procedure to get comments on. That's what we did.
We're trying to model the fine structure after the business license renewal penalties. So it sounds light, but it does add up over time. So $25 right off the bat, September 1st. So assuming we choose September 1st, $25, and you get 15 days, and then after that, it's $10 per day. So that does add up after a while. And we've had a lot of success with that with businesses. And then obviously after a couple months, we're going to have to take deeper measures. Probably to get Silverman involved here, but or start writing tickets.
So, Mark, I'll probably turn this over to you, but we had some questions about what about when you discover a rental, right? So, for example, we'll be able to identify a lot by combing through all of those tax records and utility bills, but sometimes there'll be new rentals and they won't know about it. So, what are we going to do?
We would have to go out and investigate, and like I said, go over records and tax records. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to discover and prove that these are actual rentals. But that's to be determined, and we'll, if we choose to go down this road, we'll figure it out and do the best we can.
So if we find out that, property's been leased, we'll probably, the thought would be, okay, assume that they didn't know, so send a letter saying, hey, we noticed you leased this property. Within 2 weeks, go and file for the registration. The registration itself should only take a couple of minutes, so it should be fairly easy for them to do. And then if they don't, then we start with the fines that we would typically.
This is just the basic code enforcement process. We identify the issue, give them a notice right away. And then if they don't comply, there's a formal letter sent, then no compliance, still citation. Then after that, if that doesn't work, then we go for a hearing, we go for a court.
So we just kind of threw this up. There's sort of, I guess, two things to opine on. One, the ordinance, whether we think it's appropriate, and two, whether you have any thoughts in terms of, what type of a procedure we should do. I guess the other thing I should have mentioned is, inevitably, we're going to be encouraging people to go to the website to register. So we would we would definitely make a rental registration website that has, a link to all the information they need, a link to all the forms, explanations, contact information, all of that stuff. And we could also do, cover sheet for the odd person who decides to, use the paper form.
Will that reside in a database on your side then?
Yes, I mean, we're really hoping to use a database that populates via the website, and then we would download it periodically.
That'd make it easier that way.
Yeah, it's really the live database that's out there. We'll have to figure out the back end of it, but we think that's the best thing is to have people enter the form so that it goes right into a database, and then we can just pull that data.
What did we determine, and this is for council, what did we determine if we create such a database, is this completely FOIAble?
Well, it's probably gonna be for you, yeah. There's certain things you can block out, sometimes you can block out the home address or, home telephone numbers or home emails and things like that. It's gonna be, it's public record.
By creating this, so somebody could come in and FOIA any rental registry just to identify any persons that
Mayor?
Yeah.
We hadn't seen this in a while, so I thought maybe it would disappear. But, I don't know how we got from looking at 3 or 4 Airbnbs and find out who lived in there to finding out who lives in 400 or 500 rental units in the village of Shorewood. That's an insurmountable task, in my opinion. And what's the incentive to sign up for this? I know Mark has explained some fines, but you have to know who the people are to find first of all. So, maybe Ann can back me up on this. We were giving out 50% of the people's taxes they paid several years ago, and we only got 50 or 60 or 70% of the people to sign up for that, and every year we're giving $150 or $200 back, and it cost us in excess north of 70,000, I believe, to do that, and so I mean, this is going to be just that'll look like chicken feed compared to what this is going to have to be. So I don't know how you're going to do it. So I was hoping it would go away myself. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Well, here's another question I have. So I use like an engaged couple, for example. How are you gonna, so to speak, vet whether it's, you have one name on a property tax bill, but you have somebody else paying one?
So,
I mean,
if
you
we said,
have couples and you have people that are just in long-term relationships, they're not necessarily married, but you may have another neighbor that thinks that they're renting, and, I mean, how are you gonna vet that?
so, I think we'll probably have to handle it like we do with business licenses. The state monthly sends us a list of all the new businesses, right? Everybody who's newly registered. And we send out a letter, and then 50% of the people call us and say, oh, I didn't really open a business in my home. I own a business in Joliet, and I send the mail to my house, or, so, like it's, I'm the accountant or something like that. And they explain it, and then we take them off the list. So it will result in a lot of phone calls, and probably a lot of upset phone calls.
And ultimately relying on somebody's honesty too. If somebody really denies it, it's gonna be.
Sure.
So,
There are probably a significant number of houses that people have inherited. So if the parents pass away, one sibling lives in there, the other, everybody owns it. We'll have a lot of situations like that where, a brother in another state is getting a bill, sister lives in the house, but belongs to their parents, and it's all messed up in trust. Like, there will be a number of those. So there'll be judgment calls.
I was doing a little research on rental registry and across the country, why they exist, why the municipalities have them. And one of the things that surfaced quickly was in New York state law, I guess it's newer, when they rent out in the Hamptons, example, just a case study. When they rent out properties, they can, a landlord can recognize more than 1 month of revenue in one shot, in one take, in one tranche. So instead of 1 month, they get 3 months. That way they're guaranteed paid for the summer. So that would be one advantage. That's motivating landlords to do that. I'm wondering if Illinois has legislation they're looking at or in place right now for landlords in that case. Just something to think about.
I'm missing,
I can forward you the article.
that'd be interesting, yeah, thank you.
But evidently it was, landlords are trying to comply with getting their properties registered. All I did was a quick Google search of rental registries, because I was trying to understand why they exist, why the concept exists, right? And that's one of the advantages with their law, with New York state law, not necessarily this Illinois.
A lot of it is contact information, knowing who to contact in case of property maintenance issues, but we mostly have that now. And if we don't, we knock on the door.
I think you'd also probably find that a lot of municipalities start having, quality, like housing quality issues where, people are buying houses and renting them out, there's some substandard condition. Luckily, we don't have that problem.
No, but I remember when we first talked about this in the cow, that was, our housing stock is starting to age, right? Like most of the communities that had older housing stocks, they've been around longer. This was more of a proactive attempt. In my mind, you're trying to give guidelines to landlords. I never wanted it to be a burden. It's, hey, now you have a registry, so landlords can go and they have to self-certify that their home is safe for renters. Because you hate for, you bring up a couple examples like a fiance and that stuff, and you're gonna have weird things where if a lease doesn't exist, they're not a lease. But if somebody dies because they're in an unsafe home that was rented out and that house had a bunch of issues that we didn't address or couldn't address because they didn't own the home, I need to come back and look at this law then and say, yeah, we should have done it because we could have saved lives. Like, to me, that's the whole point, is to get a landlord to think, okay, do I have basic life safety standards? We're not asking them to pay a fee to register their home, even though that home is now a business, right? We're not making them create a business license, they're making revenue. And I think it's just more making sure that they comply with basic safety standards, and that if there is an issue, we know who to go, who you can talk to and hold accountable.
Based on when we started this, I thought it was gonna be a lot simpler process. And I think it's a good idea based on, I think it's important that we know who's renting in our village, especially with our, society, the way things are right now. We don't know who could be living in any of these homes. I think a simple process, could be something we could accomplish with just the first page of this form. As far as many other things about house safety, we've got ordinances already in place that should handle all that stuff. So I don't agree with all the going into the facts of giving a list of safety things and things like that, because our, building department should be taking care of that right now if there's a problem. But I do think it's important that we know who's living in the town. And I think with the internet, the way it is right now, if we simply use this form, revise it just a little bit, because there's things on there that I think that don't need to be on there. I think we can, at least we're aware of who's living in the homes. One of the things that people did bring up that they were concerned about is the fact that strangers are just moving into town. And we've had a number of instances in town where companies have rented places and God knows who's in those places coming and going. So I think it's something we could do, but I think we could simplify it a lot more than what we're going through here, because like I said, our code enforcement covers a lot of what they're talking about right now.
But then the intent of the ordinance is to find out who lives in it, right? The intent of the ordinance is to make sure it's safe, that we have contact people. We can't use it to try to, figure out who's living in a particular house. It's just not why we do it.
No, I understand it. What I'm saying is, okay, we can use it for that also, so we do know who's in town, but the safety part is part of it also. I mean, just on this.
But we're not doing criminal background checks on anybody with his name.
We're not doing anything on anybody. But even on this right here, we're asking if a company rents it. okay? Well, if a company rents it, that should be going through the building department for, permitted inspection. If they're renting a house,
But we're not inspecting rentals.
not inspecting rentals for business, we're not inspecting those.
We don't inspect rentals.
So for business. we
If
do
it's a
that.
business,
For actual business, I mean, a lot of times companies buy homes, and then they rent them out to executives or things like that come into the area to work.
So it would really be in two situations. So you could have somebody who, rents a house, and it's used as a single family residence. And we have a couple of examples in those where, a church will rent a house, and it's essentially the rectory where the pastor and his family lives. That would probably fall under the category of something that would be allowed. But if you had a corporation that rented the house and let all of their employees stay there, that's a boarding house, and that's not permitted. So that would be a residential rental registry issue. That would be a zoning issue about use that we'd have to address. So the idea of needing a sort of business license and a residential use, I think would take care of itself because we couldn't issue it.
Well, I think that maybe this is something we should put off to maybe come make it a comment and talk. I'm not ready to, I don't think anyone's ready right now to do this.
Why don't we move it to a committee in the whole and have further discussion? See if we can better clarify where it needs to go. We'll leave it at that. It's only a first read item. It's no motion or anything needed. So with that, let's just move on. Business item number 5 would be consideration for approval of a proposal for professional engineering services with Christopher Burke Engineering for Phase 1 engineering services, data collection on the sanitary sewer infiltration and inflow program in basin number 2 in the amount not to exceed $125,000. Public Works Director Mario Vega.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're continuing with our inflow and infiltration program here for the village. If you recall, basin number 3, 5, and 6, which were from our flow monitoring test that we did over in 2016, those were identified as our priority. We've now completed those back in 2020, 2022, and basin number 6 should be completed by the end of this year. That's in construction now. So the first step of part of this program is collecting data. We are going to be smoke testing and manhole inspection. We have almost 250 manholes to inspect and almost 47,000 feet of pipe to investigate as well. Our fiscal year 2025 budget includes $145,000 for the project. We are recommending approving the proposal from CBEL for the Phase 1 engineering services for basin number 2 in the amount of $125,000.
This has been a routine project we've been working on for the last 2 years, trying to help mitigate sewer infiltration. So does anybody have any questions for Mario on this?
If somebody's not legal, the smoke is back up into their houses.
Yes.
So we'll let the residents know that.
Yeah, there will be notification for all the residents. Our service with CBEL will also include notification to Troy Fire, our police department as well. So we'll do a lot of notices to everyone so that they know what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, at least when the fire department, the building department gets called and if somebody's house is under smoke, because usually they can identify there's an illegal tap somewhere and can get addressed. So at least it's a non-toxic smoke or anything like that. So it's just a matter of opening some windows. So. Any additional questions?
Now I'll make a motion for the approval of the proposal for professional engineering services with Christopher Burke Engineering for Phase 1 engineering services data collection for a sanitary sewer infiltration and inflow program in Basin 2 in the amount not to exceed $125,000.
Motion Selfridge, second trustee Carroll. Roll call, please.
Selfridge,
Yes.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
and Lucian.
Yes.
Item number 5 has been approved. Item number 6 will be consideration for approval of a proposal with Cosgrove Construction Incorporated for the annual streetlight repainting project in the amount of $24,900 and waive the formal bid process effective Public Works.
Thank you again, Mayor. So this year, we're focusing on the field subdivision. We have about 35 poles to paint. If you recall, last year, we reached out to almost 16 different painting contractors in our area, and we received 4 bids. This year, we also reached out to those same bidders. None of them are interested in our project. Hospital is the only one that is interested. They did do our project last year, and they are holding their price, same price from last year as well. We are continuing to use the same type of paint that we've used on our water towers. It's the titanium paint. We still seem to be getting good results with it. So as soon as temperatures allow, we will begin the work for this. Staff is recommending the village board waive the formal bid process and award the contract to Custom in the amount of $24,900 for our annual street light painting project. Any questions?
We didn't have any problems with this company last year, did we?
No, they
Not that I'm aware of. Very good. Very good.
How many more subdivisions do we have poles that are that same way that we're gonna have to paint?
It's gonna be an ongoing process for us. We have a lot. So if you see a lot of the, our street lighting where the paint is chipping from our snowplow debris that is hitting it and just simply fading.
So we have no poles that are not in the category that don't have to be painted? So approximately, what are we talking about? Hundreds, thousands?
That's all I have.
The newer subdivisions have these poles, not the older.
The ornamental ones.
But like the long streets or like Kipling Estates where we have those perennial problems with some of those poles, it's not.
So they're all downwind, the poles are all downwind.
And some of the newer neighborhoods. Noriel, like said, this is the fields and some of the newer neighborhoods.
They're on Route 59 too, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all.
Right, I mean, on the thoroughfares we installed. Yeah, the question was about neighborhoods, how many neighborhoods?
Then I guess my next, does this have to be, once they're painted, is this something that has to be repeated every 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, we're hoping to get a little bit of time on this. I'm guessing about 10 or 15 years. before we
So
get
they're gonna have to
started.
be repainted again?
None of the poles that have been in the field have been painted ever. It's original.
The field was built in 2000. So yeah, you're looking at poles that are about 20 years old. This will be their first painting. So, just to give a context, I mean, it's about 20
I
years.
was just trying to find out.
No. Any other questions on, light paint?
Make a motion to approve proposal with Cutts Group Construction for the annual streetlight painting project, the amount of $24,000. The formal bid process.
Second. Motion Amos, second Chapman, roll call please.
Amos,
Yes.
Brockman,
Yes.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
and Selfridge.
Yes. All right, item number 7 will be consideration for approval of proposal to participate in the regional intergovernmental transportation coordination study and apply for a statewide planning and research funds. That's a mouthful, and I'm gonna let the administrator kind of brief everybody on that.
So very briefly, we've been invited to participate in a collective discussion that's been originated by people that are going to be impacted in the region by what will eventually be the railroad depot, the railroad yard that's going to be along that corridor at western Shanahan, western Manuka, eastern Lawrence. And obviously, this will become a traffic and logistics hub. And when you consider the traffic and logistics hub to our southeast with Center Point, North Point, and this one to our west, we have some impacts that are presumed. Those impacts will be the Ridge Road corridor, the Route 52 corridor, the interchange that's already existing at Ridge and 80, where we have in our comp plan, we envisioned having all of our logistical and truck traffic go that way. And some communities are actually exploring the possibility of a future interchange at Inglesby at 80. So I thought it best when we were invited to bring this before you. The invitation is right now to participate in those negotiations. They're seeking a grant. The estimated amount of the grant right now will be about $300,000 to get this study going. The participants at this time are the Village of Shanahan,
City of Morris, Will County Governmental League, the Grundy County CED, or what, I might have that wrong, it's Grundy County GCED or something like that.
Grundy County, yeah, their chambers.
Yeah,
Their economic development.
correct. Morris has been invited, they're talking about inviting Kendall County and also Juliet. So our commitment would be not to exceed $10,000 to be part of this study. I think it's important. I was disappointed in the traffic study that Will County did because it kind of stopped at Route 59 and really didn't take into account the things in Shorewood west of Route 59 when it was done several years ago. So I think it's important for you to consider that we participate in this conversation.
Do you recall what the boundaries were? It was pretty expansive as what this corridor was.
Yes, it was going to be 52 to the north, 47 on the west. I think they said Lorenzo to the south, and they were going to go all the way as far as like Route 53, but they backed it off to Route 55. So right in our footprint.
We fall within it. We thought it was valuable for us to have a seat at this table to have some input on this.
Here in our cost is not to exceed
Correct.
10,000.
Correct.
Anybody have any other questions on that or concerns for it?
I'll make a motion for the approval of a proposal to participate in the Regional Intergovernmental Transportation Coordination Study and apply for statewide planning and research funds in an amount not to exceed 10,000.
Second. Motion Selfridge, second Carroll. Roll call, please.
Brockman,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Luciano,
Yes.
Selfridge,
Yes.
and Amos.
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, we will move into our department reports. Bill? No report. Thank you. Community development?
No report, thanks.
Thank you. Finance?
No report, thank you.
Look at you guys. You guys went so fast. Parts had to come out of the comm room.
I'm running in. Just a couple of quick reminders tonight. Our spring garage sale will be April 19th and 20th, and registration does end on the 14th. List of participating homes will be available on our village website then on Tuesday, April 16th. Also, we have our Earth Day Arbor Day celebration coming up. That will be Saturday, April 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Shorewood Park. We will have an opportunity for residents to take part in a variety of activities. We'll be doing a small service project, plant a tree for Arbor Day, some fun crafts for Earth Day, and learning about local wildlife. So we should stop by. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief?
Just real quick, I'm sure you're all aware of the traffic problems that the construction on 59 has created. Some of you are likely affected by that. It's not what we didn't expect we knew it was going to happen. It's not unusual for this, a new traffic pattern comes and you have a choke point that's squeezing a lot of cars into two lanes of traffic, one each way. Those are cars that usually travel their route, so even though they're notified by signs and earlier, people won't pay attention to signs, so I think that'll even out over the next week, probably people will find other routes to take. They're experimenting right now using some of the neighborhoods, realizing it doesn't work, so that'll stop. We got signage up, we're fire department doing sort of very also working with IDOT for projects and additional signage as well, but this has to be patient as it progresses and it'll be announced. Questions?
We'll have to make sure to keep an eye on Shanahan Street.
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure those residents aren't getting, turning into a raceway for them.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh.
So with that, Chief, obviously, police department will keep an eye on Shanahan Street since that's apparently an imminent issue.
Correct.
Thank you. Public Works?
Thank you, Mayor. So, jumping on that a little bit, those additional signs, they were already installed by IDOT, at the request of Troy Fire Department, not to block the intersection, especially on school roadways, school roads, so that they have access to get onto 59 if there's any kind of emergency. So that those do not block intersection signs were installed already. This week, Public Works will be completing our hydrant flushing program for the spring. Staff is also working on our consumer confidence report. We hope to be able to publish in May for that. The deadline is June, so we still have some time. Just as an update, our resurfacing project, which we will be concentrating on the west half of Walnut Trail subdivision, River Road south to Mound, and also Pittsburgh, in our commercial area. We're gonna be getting started ramping up work by mid-May. The Ledsdale Linwood Water Main Replacement Project will be starting on Monday, April 22nd. That project will replacing 2,200 feet of 6-inch water main with 8-inch PVC main, and we hope to be able to finish that project by August of 2024. Two projects that are in the hopper right now, Rivers Edge Park Phase A, that will be out for bid. Bidding's on May 7th, so that's out there already. Earl and Geneva reconstruction project and water main replacement on that project is also out for bid on May 3rd. That's a big project of ours, and if you also recall, it also has, we were awarded Will County ARPA grant fund for almost $500,000. Any questions?
Noriel, would I consider striping 59 in front of the fire station all the way across, or at least on one side?
It would be something requested. We would have to make.
Maybe consider pitching that. I know they did it on 52 years ago in front of the old fire barn. I don't know if it would help, but maybe they could stripe, that, you know, they could put white tie, even if it's just temporary pavement, or, you know, instead of the full thickness stripe that they would put out, maybe they can at least paint it.
Many times you see that when they're driving, comes off of the actual lane, it's through the intersection. It's not
Sure.
but I can run by.
It may be just the way of pitching it to them. Sometimes people get a little concerned when they see a lot of white stripes across an intersection. It might stand out a little bit, that's all. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Noria? All right, Administrator.
Just one thing real quick. The Earl and Geneva project obviously is gonna go on for several months. So the Crossroads Fest planning has started. We have let the Crossroads Fest know that they are not going to be able to stage in the industrial park on Earl and Geneva this year. So the parade route will probably just be shortened ever so slightly. It'll probably start at Geneva and River rather than Geneva and Ravinia. And we'll be staging in that neighborhood and along Geneva rather than in the industrial park. So that one little accommodation, we'll see if the construction is on fast pace and gets done, so that's not an issue, but that's already been addressed in case it ever comes up, okay? And we'll get more obviously out as we get closer to the fence.
We got some time.
We have.
And with that, let's move into trustee comments. Trustee Amos.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brock.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing about the next meeting, but I'm hoping to have 3 reappointments for a 2-year term and 1 new appointment for a 2-year term at the next meeting.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Carroll.
Okay.
Thank you. Trustee Chapman.
No comment.
Thank you. Trustee Luciano.
The Citizen Advisory Committee will be meeting April 25th. At that meeting, we will have a presentation from Will County State's Attorney James Lasco. We'll be talking about the newly passed revised Illinois Safety Act and his experience with it since it's been passed, and what he thinks can be done, if there's any problems with it or whatever. Also, it can add that all residents are invited to this. It's an open meeting. I think it might be beneficial for people to hear what's going on as far as what the new revisions, what the new law was, and his comments on it. And as always, if anyone's interested in becoming involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee, they can contact myself or any members, and our information is on the village website. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Selfridge.
No comments, sir.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion Trustee Selfridge, second by Trustee Chapman. Roll call to adjourn, please.
Carol.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Luciano.
Yes.
Selfridge.
Yeah.
Amos.
Yeah.
And Brockman.
Yes. All right, we are adjourned. For the, can you do the rest of everything? We have to do a committee of the whole.